Welcome back, everyone. Tennessee WildCast. Good to have you here. Jason Harmon right over here. Hit the button, Jason, so they can see. There you go. There's
hey,
Jason.
Doug. How's it going?
How are you?
Doing great.
Mike Jolley's back with us this week, representing Region 3 as a turkey biologist this week. Just kidding, Mike. He's a fish biologist, but we're going to talk turkey in just a minute.
Oh, yeah.
And then we're going to talk some more fishing. Todd Mazoris is behind us, running our graphics and stuff. And thank you, Todd, as always. And it's always fun to do the show. Here we are again. A week has passed. Turkey season carries on. Hunter are still doing good. I don't have the harvest numbers right in front of me, but they continue to do well across the state on their way to having a good season, I think.
Still working on my turkey.
Are you? Nothing between now and last week, huh?
No.
Mike, I bet you haven't either.
No, hadn't. Got to get out there and do a little bit more of it.
Okay. All right. Well, Mike was on last week. Mike is a reservoir biologist for the Tennessee Wildlife Resources Agency. And in a minute, we're going to get you to do a little calling because your passion is also turkey hunting.
Sure, absolutely.
Mike, so we want to do it. Let us do a few announcements, and then we'll get with that. And then we're also going to go to Del Hollow today, talk about some fish over there. We're going to go back to Chickamauga and not necessarily talk about bass, though we might mention it again. I want to talk about those crappie over there.
Absolutely.
That so many people are catching, and those shellcracker and bluegill on that lake that I know is so good. All right. First of all, though, let's say congratulations to some folks. Let's make sure that our newest commissioner is congratulated, our newest chairman, I should say. His name is Harold Cannon, and Commissioner Cannon, we want to get him on here sometime and find out what commissioners do and what he wants to do during his leadership year. He's in here for a year from Knoxville, Tennessee. I believe he's an engineer over there.
Yes.
And a passionate outdoorsman, and congratulations to him. He just recently started his first one-year term with us, okay? I also want to say congratulations to a bunch of kids. We got some kids that really did well. We just recently ended another year of the National Archery in the Schools program. Almost 2,000 kids participated in this event, and there's all kinds of winners. You can go to our website, which is tnwildlife.org, go to the newsroom, and in there you'll see a long story on all the winners. But Central Magnet High School and Central Magnet Middle School were team winners this year. They won their divisions. There's a good coach over there somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
They took both of those, and then Christiana Elementary won the younger competition over there that ended here a month or so ago, or a few weeks ago. And I just wanted to get on there and just say thanks to all these kids and what a great job you did. And also to Don Crawford and everybody. Don works at TWRA and all the folks that worked with Don to put this thing together, because it's a massive event now. You've been to some of them.
It takes a lot of people to make sure it happens, and the officers are always out there volunteering, scoring, and all that kind of stuff.
Officers, biologists, technicians, you name it. If we got folks working for TWRA, they go out there, and it's held at the championship's held every year at Miller Coliseum in Murfreesboro, which is in Middle Tennessee, but they do a lot of competing across the state before that gets there. I also want to say congratulations to Leith Conendike. He's an officer in Lincoln County, and Leith has been congratulated about 20 times, I think, this year. He's Officer of the Year for the NWTF, National Turkey Federation, Southeastern Officer of the Year, that's 15 states times all the officers in those states. And then recently the legislature, the Tennessee General Assembly, honored him they honored him for all the honors that he'd gotten. He went down there and actually met them and got his photograph taken. He's over in Lincoln County, and he does a great job. And one of the reasons that Leith gets so recognized is because of all the youth programs he does. He spends a lot of time on youth programs. He's just a great officer down there. And finally, I want to show the Harmon team here.
Yeah.
Just as a way of reminding.
Check this out. This is my son Tucker.
Yeah.
And we went fishing a week ago or 2 weeks ago, and he hadn't been a whole lot, but like the third cast, he'd been getting the hang of it. So we stopped at this little creek. Third cast, I turned around, he's reeling this thing in. So it was about 6-8 inches. It's pretty good.
Might have been a state record there.
There you go.
That's a nice picture for swant
Yeah. Anyway, we want to remind everyone.
Good looking kid too.
Yeah. That's what I meant.
It looks like his mama. All right.
What?
Want to remind everyone to get people are still buying licenses. If you're going to get a license for those toddlers right now, get that license for that lifetime for kids that are 3 and under 3, toddlers, babies, $200, best gift in all of Tennessee.
Absolutely.
And it may not always be here. It may not be one of those things that the agency keeps around forever. So if you have a toddler under 3, best gift you can buy, $200. Rest of their life they can hunt in Tennessee, fish in Tennessee. If they leave and come back, license is good when they come back. And let's show the other side of the Harmon here.
Yeah, this is a good one here too.
Yeah.
There we
All
go.
right. This is a reminder to get out
Sheds.
there and do a little shed collecting. This is your turkey hunting. Now, this is a massive shed. As somebody said on Facebook, he shed his whole skull. But
We think this one might have been hit on the road or something,
Yeah.
ran off and died. in the woods.
yeah, they don't usually shed like this. They shed their antlers, and it's a good time of the year to get out there while you're turkey hunting, while you're turkey scouting, and find antlers that fall off. And a lot of fun, kind of like a big old Easter egg hunt for adults.
Get out there
Do
before
you do
the,
it, Mike?
Some I do.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm always looking. You
Yeah.
know.
get out there before the squirrels get a hold of them.
Yeah.
You know,
No, he doesn't. What'd you do with that thing?
it's sitting in our office here.
Oh,
we'll
okay,
use it
back
as a
there
little
somewhere.
prop. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Good deal. Well, all right. Now, Mike, let's go ahead and get with you. Let's talk turkey before we talk
Sure.
fishing. Last week you were on talking about Chickamauga and those great big bass over there and how great that lake is. And at the very end, I got you to talk about turkeys, which wasn't enough because you'd probably rather talk turkeys than you love
I'm
turkey.
passionate about it.
You are passionate about it, and the season goes until May 15th, I think, this year. So we got a long way to
Yeah.
go. You like the later part of the year?
Yeah, I really do. It's seems to be more conducive for calling and stuff. You know, a lot of the hens are already bred by then, and the gobbler's still active out there looking around. So you have you're not competing with a big harem of hens that he has with him at that time.
So you like the pressure time of the year, and you say there's more calling, and you brought a call. I almost would have thought it would be just the opposite. I'm not a turkey hunter, talked to a lot of them through the years, but you say call more sometimes instead of less. The pressure hasn't changed. Is it because they're having a hard time finding a girlfriend?
It's really per situation. You know, of course, a lot of times if you're in an area that has other hunting pressure, you know, calling too much a lot of times is absolutely the worst thing you can do.
I see.
And I tell you, it's once you get that answer from that gobbler, he knows where you're at. And a lot of times he's committed unless he's got hens or something with him that could change it. And it's just each situation dictates, you know, kind of what you have to do after that.
Okay. And I guess in a situation, if you have, say, private property you can go to where they're not pressured, but they already have found them a bunch of girlfriends,
Right.
and then they're just looking for that one more, that's when you really do a calling. Is that what you're
Yes.
saying too?
Yeah, you may have to compete with those hens. Another thing that happens too is that you may call the hens in, and then he follows the hens in. Yeah, so
That's all the part of the fun. Isn't it?
yeah, and then another thing that always gets me torqued up pretty good is when I'm calling and he's coming to me and a hen blows by me trying to get to him, and you have to take your hat or something and turn them around so they don't cut you off.
Oh, that's
You know?
great.
Yeah,
That's fun. Well, your
So-
dad makes calls.
He does.
And you brought one. What's your dad's name?
Wendell Jolley,
Where does Mr. Jolley live?
Spring City, Tennessee, and
Spring
lived
City.
in Ray County there all of his life, right there at Wattsbar Reservoir, and a very great outdoorsman and woodsman. And in his retirement, he kind of taken up making some turkey calls, and he sold these things all over the nation. He gets a lot of pictures here in the last few days of people with great success with his calls, and it's been a good gratification for he. And it's a call I love. He makes it out of a lot of different kinds of wood, and I brought one here today out of cedar. I was just going to show and
Show it for
demonstrate
us.
it.
Let's
So
see what you got there.
it's real simple. It's he calls it the Jolley scratch tube, and it's
Lift it a little bit more, Mike.
basically
There you go.
you just strike it down. So it's a really simple call to use, and he makes it out of a lot of different kinds of wood. He doesn't have a website. But he does have a YouTube video of an instructional way to do it. He goes a lot of.
If somebody wanted to look at it, I know he's
sure.
not looking to make a ton of money
No.
off of us.
Yeah.
We just love it because he's your dad and how much you love turkey hunting.
Sure.
Where would they find that on YouTube? Can they find it under his
Yeah,
name?
under the Jolley scratch tube, and that's Jolley.
Make sure that E's in there.
Yeah, make sure that's a EY, and then his phone number is 423-365-5462.
Okay. All right. And show all of it. Jason, you might be better holding it right
let's-
there. Show all the pieces of that thing. And what does he call it again?
It's the Jolley scratch tube. So it's got the little striker there, and like I said, that's out of the cedar wood. They're each handmade. He's got a considerable amount of time in those, and I think he only sells them for about $30 each.
Yeah,
so
he's
it's
not
not
in
a
there.
money making.
He's in there having fun is what
It,
he's doing.
it sounds great.
Thank you. He's making a lot of friends, and we've killed a lot of birds with those, and so have a lot of other people across the nation. It's really kind of neat.
Hey, are you a strict Tennessee hunter yourself?
Pretty much
Up
so.
on the plateau the whole time?
Yeah, not a lot on the plateau. A lot around the valley more.
Okay.
Some Middle Tennessee, Giles County. Used to go there quite a bit. A lot of birds, populous, down there. So
That's some stomping grounds. I was down there before I started at the agency when they were stocking in Giles County, and Jim Potts was the wildlife officer down there and was instrumental in getting those birds.
Well, that's a good point, Doug. The turkey that you and I can enjoy today is a great success story of TWRA.
It is. For sure it is, and I think most folks like it these days if they have the birds.
Yeah.
I know you do if you're a sportsman.
Yeah.
All right, Mike, let's shift gears a little bit. Let's go back to the water.
Okay,
You
good.
are a reservoir biologist over in Crossville, Region 3, and you have been there how long?
23 years.
And have you been in reservoir biology the entire time that you've
I
been?
have. I've worked with the reservoir crew. I started out part-time, actually, and worked my way up to where I'm at now. So I've been in a lot of different areas within the crew, but I've always been in the reservoir crew.
Okay.
So worked with a lot of great people through the years.
I'm going to throw you a little bit of a curve here because we didn't talk about this before the show started, but it's becoming a muskie part of the world. And
Yes.
do you work with muskie much, or do you work with the guys who work with
Well,
muskie?
typically our streams crew have really done just an awesome job with the muskie program and on the plateau and stocking them up, in Collins River and different places there, and they're really having some national attention, with what they've done with the muskie program. Muskie, as far as my management, they've been in Del Hollow since the 50s, and they continue to be there, and it's really a great mystery kind of to where they spawn and how successful they are, but they have remained presence there throughout all these years, and they do show up in the Emery River some down next to the reservoir at Watts Bar. So we see them some in our data collections, and we always collect them and get information, but really have hats off to the streams crew on what they've been able to do with the muskie program.
It's exciting. Another Collins River over in that part of the world.
Yes.
What's the Collins and the Caney and is it Calf Killer?
Calf Killer.
All have
So-
muskie in them?
Pretty sure.
Okay. Anyway, they sort of converged, some of them over there, and I remember fishing that area a few years ago and seeing three missile-like things
Yeah.
swimming together, and I knew what they were.
I mean, it's really unreal.
They were cool, but people were coming from all over the country to fish.
They really are. We were
waters
at the Blue Hole at the Caney up in the upper end of Center Hill collecting some walleye brood the other day, and able to collect, I think, 5 muskie there of considerable size, and the streams guy were there to take the information off of them and able to pit tag them, which actually puts a little tag like people are getting put in their pets now. If they get lost and they take the wand.
chip.
Yeah, so if we get them next year, they can take that wand and go over that fish, and it'll tell all about the age or
That's cool.
estimated age and the lengths and the weights that was collected last year, and they can compare it to how much it's grown in a year's time and different things.
Unlike some fish, the striper's not native to Tennessee, but the muskie is.
Right,
Correct?
they're native,
Okay, especially
Yes.
to your part of the world.
especially there.
Over
yes.
there. All right.
They've
and-
been moved around a little bit, but they are
Right.
native. Yeah.
Okay, good fish to think about in your repertoire of fishing. If you're going to go sometime, a muskie is something you ought to add in. And you mentioned it too, walleye. You guys got walleye, Center Hill Lake and Blue Hole you're talking about,
Yes.
full of walleye?
Really good. We've seen a lot of good walleye. A lot of fishermen were there.
Del Hollow?
Del Hollow, really good. Was out working on Del Hollow a couple of weeks ago, and the guys were talking about at night all of the big walleye they were seeing on the lower end of the reservoir down there, doing their spawning thing and around the banks. And,
Yeah.
and we stock a lot of walleye. Our hatchery system does a great job, of raising walleye fingerlings and stock them into different reservoirs. We started supplementing walleye instead of our sauger a few years ago on Watts Bar. Now we've implemented that further down the Tennessee River and the Chickamauga and different places. And, man, they have been catching them this year like crazy.
That drives me crazy because I haven't been out. So where's Watts Bar? What is Watts Bar the nearest to when you mention?
As far as town, it's located between Fort Loudon on the upper end, Chickamauga on the bottom end as far as the Tennessee River goes. As far as the biggest town would probably be Rockwood,
Okay.
Kingston area on the kind of the upper end of Watts Bar, and on the lower end would be Spring City, near Watts Bar Nuclear Plant.
All right. Would you consider Tennessee now? For a long time, I did not consider Tennessee a walleye state, even though we have the world record that
Right.
came from Old Hickory Lake, 25 pound. When Old Hickory
25.
Lake was a lot different than it is
Yeah,
now.
sure.
It wasn't Old Hickory Lake, or not like it is now
No.
anyway. It may have been impounded, but it was early impoundment.
Early impoundment.
Early impoundment. And for a long time, I didn't really consider us a walleye lake because of all the dams. Was I wrong about that? State. Have we always been a walleye state?
Yeah, they are native here. I think that the construction of the dams put a great limitation on what they could do naturally for their spawn. And the same with sauger. Sauger even more so, even more delicate to raise in a hatchery system, and also just on their own. They're shorter lived than walleye. So when we started looking at walleye, of course, being native and a close cousin to a sauger, it was an easy jump to say, let's do walleye. The hatcheries like the idea because they're easier to propagate in the hatchery system, but they live longer. They offer more year-round fishing, the walleye do. So hopefully we'll see a lot of natural reproduction with a walleye by stocking these fish in there, and maybe won't have to augment it as much in the future.
They get big. I mean,
they do
these
get big.
fish are getting big,
Yeah.
and
Fast.
really trophy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I look forward to seeing them grow.
Yeah,
and
me
getting
too.
out after them.
Me
Finding
too.
some people who know how to catch them and show me how. All right. We talked last week about Chickamauga, too. That's where the bass fishing is so great. Over your part of the world, Chattanooga, I guess, would be the closest
Chattanooga,
city
yes.
over there. And done so well with fish like this. Talked to Excess last week about, well, you never talk to Excess, but we talked a lot about them last week. Let's talk about something else. And we may not have photographs of them this week, but crappie. This is, Chickamauga is a heck of a crappie lake,
It really
right?
is. This has really been a banner year for crappie fishing on Chickamauga, and it's just we do trap net surveys in the fall of the year on our Tennessee reservoirs, looking at the success of the crappie spawn, and we see great consistency in the black crappie on Chickamauga, which is what most people catch down there, versus the white crappie. But this year's just, by all accounts and reports of the fishermen, we went out just about a week and a half ago to do a crappie survey, and we collected almost 400 just in about 2 boats, about 200 yards respectively of bank, and got almost 400 crappie. In 2 different creeks. So
are we talking pretty good size crappie?
yes, good size. Really from several 6 and 8 inch, but a lot of keeper
That's
10
good
inch
to
plus
see, though.
size.
Yeah. So Chickamauga, best in your part of the world, the Region 3, the plateau in the valley out there. Is that the best crappie lake you got?
For right now, I think. But crappie are so cyclic that they could really change. But Del Hollow and Center Hill, which we've stocked black nose crappie in there for many years now, really have some great size fish. They're different to catch. A lot of times they inhabit deeper water, but have had some great pictures from Danny, the creel clerk up there, of some really nice crappie catches. Danny Stone.
Yeah. Yep. I run across Danny from time to time. I always enjoy talking to Danny.
He's a great outdoorsman.
He is for sure. He's outstanding.
Yeah.
So these fish run a little deeper, and if I recall, Center Hill for black nose black crappie, that was the first place in the state to get them, wasn't it?
It sort of. They tried it at Watts Bar for about a year.
Okay.
And really couldn't get enough crappie to do the fish per acre for that reservoir that size, Watts Bar being about 39,000 acres. So Center Hill was in great need there because of those steep banks and stuff. It's really hard to get crappie reproduction off on a consistent basis. So Anders Murr, my predecessor, was really kind of laughed out of the room when he talked about stocking crappie at the time, and did it. And that's really been the flagship for crappie stocking across the state of Tennessee and beyond.
It has
now.
been. And I forget about Watts Bar because I think of Center Hill as being the key to the reason
But it really
so many
was.
guys.
Center Hill was. You were absolutely correct. Center Hill really was the key because of the success there. Then we implemented it to Del Hollow and beyond.
And are there any white crappie? Does the agency even do white crappie anymore? Do we concentrate solely on the black nose black crappie?
Yes, for our hatchery system, it's the black or black nose crappie, which is the same fish. The black nose crappie, I guess it would be a good time to point that out too. I see a lot of confusion with people in the public, but a black nose crappie is just a black crappie with a black genetic stripe, down its nose there. But the white crappie have really, through trial and error with Tennessee back in the day and other states, are really a lot harder to raise in our hatchery systems. So black crappie are not as hard to raise, and they do really well in the hatchery systems, and they do well in the reservoirs. Now, back in the day when Watts Bar really seen great numbers of crappie, it was those white crappie that were getting off those great spawns. And in the early 80s, when you didn't have size limits and stuff, people would come from all over in Kentucky and Ohio and fish Watts Bar, and there was an estimated harvest in the early 80s of 650,000 plus crappie that year. So people were just filling coolers full. So, then came the 10-inch size limit and a 30 per day creel down to 15 per person per
Kind
day.
of spreads that's to spread it out to other anglers
Sure.
as much as anything,
And
right?
it's-
So we all can catch some of those
Yes.
fish.
And it was well received, and people like it.
Anders Murr was, to me, a good biologist.
Absolutely.
He stuck by his guns because he also, not only did he do the crappie, and I'm sure he also was instrumental, if I recall, in the first size limit we put on Del Hollow
He
smallmouth,
was.
and stood by it.
Stood by it in 1992, implemented the 18-inch minimum size limit on Del Hollow, which was met with some skepticism.
They didn't laugh. They were mad.
And worked with that even before it got implemented in 92. It was brought up 2 or 3 years prior to that, and kind of worked and educated the people. And once they seen the benefit of what that 18-inch did over time, they loved it.
You're right. That's
And then, of
exactly right.
course, in the year 2000, it went to the slot limit, which is there now, which
15
is
to 20.
16 to 21.
Thank you. 16 to 21. Sorry.
Yeah.
16 to 21.
Yeah.
Read your guide anytime. Okay. 16
right.
to 21.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So
And
he
how
was,
are people liking that? Yeah.
They really like it. We've getting a lot of feedback from the public and just seeing what they're catching. As I was talking about last week, the 4 gentlemen that are catching 50 and 60 smallmouth bass a day. And when I'm out there, I see people that have been coming for 25 and 30 years every year, spending great amount of money to stay a week or two at Del Hollow from other states. Because of the smallmouth bass fishing there, they could go anywhere for the distance they're driving.
Mm-hmm.
They could go to some of the Lake Eries or Canada or wherever probably, but they come to Del Hollow and they've been doing it for years, and they consistently really talk about how they love the slot limit and the management, how it's done there, and just the largemouth bass fishing at Del Hollow. It's even been unreal the last few years, and so. Crappie, walleye. It's just a really neat place.
I always refer to Del Hollow as the big fish, big lake, or the big fish lake.
That's fair.
Because if you catch a bluegill out of there, it's going to be big. A shellcracker's big. A crappie's big.
That's true.
They're all big. Smallmouth are big. I don't know what it is about that reservoir,
Yeah.
but it just seems to carry big fish.
And typically, with Del Hollow being a clear reservoir, which signals a less nutrient-rich reservoir, you don't typically see that right there. But it's just there's a good balance there. Obviously, there's enough forage for what they need and habitat. But there's some real giant, like you said, even the shellcrackers up there are big.
I
And the
love
bluegill.
shellcracker fishing up there. Both of them, if I can find them. Not every year can I find them, but when I
Yeah.
do, boy, it sure is a pleasure to
Yes,
find them
it
on
is.
that lake. And there's LY in that lake, good or bad?
Well, so the thought was with the agency years ago by putting those in there that it was going to create a forage base that was more sustainable through the winter months, where and Del Hollow experienced a lot of shad kills in the winters up there with threadfin shad, and we would go and try to restock the threadfin shad. So one thing that we can't deny is with the introduction of alewife, the walleye population or their spawning success decreased. So there's an interaction there, and there's been some different studies, but there's an interaction there, predation on the eggs or the young or whatever from the alewife to the walleye that has really not been good. And goes back to what we were talking about last week about the Florida largemouth and not putting them everywhere, because a lot of times what you think is going to be good over time is not. So you're always better now to proceed with caution, as you introduce things to these reservoirs in different places, and so you can see that the outcomes will not be a negative experience, hopefully.
All right, we're not very
But
many.
but now, Doug, in the short term, they are providing a lot of forage
They
for
do.
the fish in there. There's no doubt about
I've
it.
caught a lot of smallmouth on them.
Yeah.
You get that,
Yeah.
it's a special way of catching them at
Yeah.
nighttime. The guys over there do, and I've been
Yeah,
lucky
so really
to
the
go
only negative would be the influence they've had on our
on the
walleye.
walleye. Okay,
Yeah.
and you've worked around that with another.
We're
species of
stocking every
walleye.
year.
Yeah.
Mhm.
All right. One other lake, Center Hill.
Center Hill.
Center Hill Lake. I want to go there this year. Also, it's a little closer to where I live.
Yeah.
I want to go over there and catch bluegill and shellcracker. Is it good for either?
Well, shellcracker for sure. We see some giants there electrofishing. Bluegill's kind of off and on there, and it's, but I mean, it would be trying to compare it to a Tennessee reservoir wouldn't be fair, of course, but for what it is, I think it would be a decent trip for bluegill. I don't see a lot of people making it their destination to go to Center Hill for bluegill, but for the red ear, you do see several nice ones caught there.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
that's kind of what I want to go looking for.
Maybe
this
I can
year.
help you out. We're going to be there in the next few days, hopefully doing some electrofishing for smallmouth. So
Well, you can always send me a text. I'd be glad to have it. Hey, Jason, speaking of things like text and Facebook and tag board. Show them what you're going to show them.
Yeah, just was looking on our Twitter page here a few minutes ago, and Brad Carson sent in this photo, or tweeted this photo here. I don't know if y'all can see that. Anyway, nice largemouth.
Fish.
And if you want to send photos to our tag board, you can hashtag those photos when you post on Twitter or post on your Facebook. Hashtag TN Wildlife, and that'll go to our tag board, and you can.
So anytime you post a photo on Twitter or Facebook or 5 or 6 other,
there's some other
Instagram
platforms.
and all that stuff.
Yeah.
All right. When you call it a hashtag, for those not for, what is that?
It's the number symbol.
Okay.
Up
Looks
on
like a
the
tic-tac-toe.
top row of your keyboard.
Yeah.
Hit that function number symbol or shift, whatever it is. Get the number symbol in front of TN Wildlife. That'll push it to our tag board, and that's sort of how all the outdoor community can communicate and put it all in one place and see it all in one place and see what everybody's doing. So.
Yeah, and that's the idea. We want sportsmen coming in, sharing their photographs or
Right.
whatever.
Yeah.
Boaters want to come in there and share their stuff.
Pictures of sunrise or just being outdoors, just shots of outdoors, people enjoying Tennessee wildlife.
So tag board.
Tag board, yeah.
All right, and it's out there. And that's also, we're trying to revamp our website some. And if you go to the top of our website, we got a banner that slides across now with 5 or 6 different things on there. Tag board is one of them that you can find.
Yeah, and
And
the director's
some of the videos.
message is right there on our slider. You can watch this show on the slider.
Hopefully you're watching this show.
Yeah,
on the
hopefully
side.
that's
Maybe-
where you're at right now. But it's a great tool to get stuff in your face and show you what we're doing. We're not just out writing tickets. We're doing all kinds of good stuff for the sportsmen in Tennessee.
Yeah, we had a conversation before this show started about the many things that this agency does, Mike, and you work with a lot of great folks that are krill clerks,
Right.
technicians,
Yes.
fisheries technicians, all your fisheries biologists that go out there. These guys and gals, they're out there. They're not out there to do enforcement. They're out there to check on the resource, right? Just
Absolutely.
checking on that 24/7 almost.
Right. It's really a group effort, and we've got so many strengths with different people and what they all bring to the table. All the people that you just described, and it's really been great working with such a great group. As the Reservoir crew that I have talked about, the Streams crew as well, and feel that way about the whole agency. A lot of people that are passionate about what they do. It's really exciting to see anglers and hunters and bird watchers or whatever really enjoying the resource that we manage. Of course, that would be fisheries for me, but it is very rewarding.
I know we always think of officers are the ones that I think most people see in the field from the Tennessee Wildlife Resources Agency. But I've always thought the other person that they see the most are our krill clerks. And I think our krill clerks are critical to our public relations efforts with the fishermen out there. What is a krill clerk, Mike?
A krill clerk is a guy or a lady that goes out and they actually interview fishermen. It's actually the ones we do are called roving krill surveys. So they do it by boat unless the weather prevents that, and then they go to some different locations. But they approach each fisherman, identify themselves, and that they're conducting an angler survey, and ask them a series of questions about their catch, some socioeconomics, where they're from, different things. And it really gives us a good picture of the anglers out there. In Region 3, we've been doing an angler attitude survey since 2013, where we really ask them about how they feel about our management practices and recommendations. It's also a good time to give the krill clerk information about our stocking programs and different things that they can share with the public. But they are an absolute face out there on the reservoirs. They're not on every reservoir, as we kind of an as-needed basis there, but they are a face of the agency for sure.
Okay, and the information helps you a lot. And
Absolutely.
that attitude thing, are they liking us?
Yeah, they do. A great amount of approval on our reservoirs that we look at.
Well,
really high.
I know I appreciate their work. They work hard. They're out there a lot.
They're great.
And they're out there to get fish information from them. And even if you're a tournament person, give them 60
Please.
seconds or a minute.
Absolutely.
Or two. You're only helping yourself.
That's
right, Mike?
exactly right.
All right, Mike. Thank you for your great
Thank you,
work.
Doug.
Thank you for being here.
Thanks,
Both
Mike.
shows. Jason?
Yeah, you can find us on tnwildcast.com. You can watch or listen right there. Watch us in the slider, and make sure you check out our Facebook, our Twitter, and keep watching, keep coming back.
Well, it's all about trying to get y'all in there working with us. All right. Thank you, Todd. Thank you, Jason. Thank you, Mike. We'll be back next week. We're always there. See you, everyone.